As everyone knows, I am very good about talking about cybercrime, why attacks happen, things like that. And I've talked a lot about what I call the three necessities of cybercrime, gathering data, committing crime, cashing out. Easy enough. That's why it's never a single attacker, because of those three necessities. One guy can't do all three things. One of the things that I also talk about is what must be inherent in a criminal for them to engage in crime. And I've broken that down to three things as well: willingness, ego, and then finally knowledge. What are you willing or not willing to do? Do you have a big enough ego that, by God, you're going to try that bullshit? And then finally, do you have the knowledge to do that act that you want to do? And I've left it at those three for a couple of years. But fortunately, as people know, I like to take these road trips, and these road trips allow me or afford me the opportunity to just engage in thought, to work things out. Not only shit that I'm going through, but some of the criminal stuff that's happening on the internet, or some of the scams and the way they operate. So I think about this frequently, okay? On my last trip, I drove down to Orlando to the Business Technology Association conference, and on the way back, I don't even remember everything that I was thinking about. I do. What had happened is my mom, the day before I was supposed to speak, she calls. I was in Orlando, and I usually don't pick up. I just don't, because she's a very toxic individual, and it's always something that she's bewailing on. My life sucks. It's horrible here. I need to get away. Blah. Have you got any money? Blah, 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 blah. For some odd fucking reason, I decided that, it's my mom calling. Everything's going to be all right. Picked up the phone. So, and it was one of those bewailing segments. She proceeds to tell me that she no longer has a home, that she's living in a one-room shack in some hollow. Back in Kentucky, they call it a holler. In some holler in Kentucky. And I don't know if she has electricity or anything else like that, and that everyone is stealing money from her. Now, here's the thing. I love my mom. I do. I don't like my mom, but I love my mom. I don't talk to her on the phone because of the toxicity, because of the way she tries to manipulate, because of her not ever accepting any accountability or responsibility for her life or what she's done to others. She just doesn't do that. So I try to stay away from that. She proceeds to tell me this, and that pulls at me, man. I mean, that's my mom. I don't like to see her in that position. So I'm talking to her, and she's telling me how, this guy that she's been with for 20 years is stealing from her now and using her and abusing her. And I'm like, okay. And it occurs to me as she's talking that literally she said this exact same thing to me 20 years ago. And she makes the comment again that she doesn't have a house. So I pause, and I was like, well, Mom, what happened to your home? She was living in a double wide in Corbin, Kentucky. And she says, well, my home burned. Well, that gives me pause. And the reason it gives me pause is my mom, I grew up knowing how to do insurance fraud. Faking accidents, faking stolen cars, burning homes for cash. My mom, that I absolutely know about, has burned at least 5 homes for the insurance money, for renter's insurance at that. A lot of the homes that she burned, they were rental homes, and she would live there 3 months, get insurance through her insurance company, go out to Salvation Army, buy a shitload of clothes, maybe some old junk furniture, put in the home, and then all of a sudden the home burns, and she collects the renter's insurance on that, much to the detriment of the actual homeowner. She's done that at least 5 times. So when she said that her home burned, I get that sinking feeling in my stomach. And I asked her, I was like, did you have insurance? She said no. Okay, well, usually she would tell me if she had insurance. And usually, most people might let it drop there. Well, she didn't have insurance, so obviously it was an accident, right? Well, no, it was not. Turns out that her home burned at about the same time those floods were going through eastern Kentucky last year. So anybody who watched CNN or Fox News, all those floods in eastern Kentucky, that's where I grew up, Hazard, Kentucky. Come to find out, when FEMA comes through, if you have lost your home, FEMA has a one-time maximum payment grant of $35,000. So long story short, my mom burned her home so that she could get a $35,000 FEMA grant and I guess try to survive from that. So you can see the problem here. The problem, of course, is this idea of instant gratification of my mom can only see what's in front of my face and can't see the consequences of your choices or actions on down the fucking line. Like, for example, yes, I'm going to get $35,000, but a week from now, where in the hell am I going to sleep? So she calls me, and she's very manipulative, even though she's old and frail and sick now. And she says, I don't want any money from you, but if you can find me a finance company that will give me a loan. And I was like, Mom, there's no finance company. You don't have any credit. You're 77, and the only money that you get in is from the government. No one is going to give you a loan. She was wanting a loan so she could go, and she wanted to buy a used trailer. She said, I think I know where I can buy a used trailer for like $3,500 and try to fix it up. And I'm sitting there going, Mom, you're about to give up the ghost as it is. And I asked her, I was like, what about, assisted living? And she was adamantly against that. And she shot back at me. She was like, well, what about your father? Did your father make it to assisted living? I was like, and I was very quiet. And I was like, no, Mom, he didn't live long enough to get there, but he was going to go. And at that point, she gives me at least a 10-minute lecture on God and how we never die and blah, 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 blah. The reason I bring that up is that was going through my head the night before I keynoted this conference. I keynoted the conference the next day, and that absolutely colored my presentation that day. Not in a bad way, I think in a very beneficial, more open way. All right, because I believe in getting things out. I don't believe in holding them back or sugarcoating them or anything else. So I actually discussed this on stage. I was supposed to give the presentation was supposed to be, I think, like an hour 15 minutes. I went 2 hours, and they said that was more than okay. So I was good to go. But that leads me into the topic of today's show, the power of conviction. Because on the drive back, I had all these thoughts. I was trying to process through everything, and I'm still processing through everything. And I truly believe this. I believe that we are on this planet to know ourselves, to help our fellow human beings, and to overcome whatever that obstacle, whatever you want to call it. I was referencing the Coen brothers there. Many obstacles. That's the what is that with George Clooney? The one where they redo the Odyssey.
Oh, brother, we're out though.
Oh, brother, we're out. Yeah, that's one of the the guy that George Clooney meets that's on the train. He says, "I have overcome many obstacles in my life."
You shall see things wonderful to tell, but fear not the obstacles in your path.
That got me thinking about all this stuff. Even my mom's mistaken because she doesn't know the fucking Bible. She thinks she does, but she does not. I don't know if the woman's ever read the damn thing. I, however, have. So on my way back home, that 8.5-hour drive, I was trying to process and go through all these things. And what occurred to me, even on stage, I mentioned this, she never dedicated herself to any of that I fully believe in. I fully believe that we are here to know more about ourselves, to help other people, and to overcome whatever types of problems we bring to this planet to begin with. I think that we've all got these trials and tribulations, each one of us unique to ourselves, that our journey through life is about overcoming, figuring out, working through, processing. And I really believe that if we do that if there is an afterlife, we will be welcomed unto it. I don't really give a damn about Christianity, about Hinduism, Buddhism, about any other fucking religion out there. I think they're all beneficial. I think there is no right one. I think that if you are an overall good person and you're doing those things, that you're not going to end up in some place called hell because you didn't follow a guy named JC and the boys. I don't believe that. And we don't refer to it as Jesus Christ and 12 apostles. It's JC and the boys. And it's not a Peter pool at St. Taffy's. It's a Taffy pool at St. Peter's. I was driving back, and it occurred to me, my mom had never really dedicated herself to that. She had, more than often than not, the master that she served was a master of abuse and abusing other people and victimizing others and taking advantage of others and lying and deceit. That was the master that she used. And any time that this other master of doing the right thing and trying to be beneficial for people would rear its head, she would always be firmly rooted in this other place, she would only do those things if somehow it did not take away from this. And so as I was driving back, I started to think about one's convictions. That's what I started to think about. And where it really hit was, again, I've read the Bible. Where it really hit was Matthew 17:20. And he talks, it's the mustard seed verse of the King James Bible. And here's the thing. If you're going to read the Bible, I believe in the King James Version. No, I do not believe that God directed people's hands to write the King James Version. I don't believe that. But I do like the poetry and the way that the King James Bible is written. Yes, I understand it's not normal text. It's not American English, any of the bullshit like that. But to me, there's something that's taken away from the text when you Americanize it. So I like the King James Version. Anyway, what this says, what this passage says in Matthew is it says, and Jesus said unto them, because of your unbelief, for verily I say unto you, if ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. So that passage kept just hanging in my head, banging around on this drive back. And as I was working through this, I started to understand some of the meaning of that.